He grabbed me by the throat and he pushed me up into our bedroom window and he strangled me, shook me by the throat, threw me over the back of our bed, like the footboard, and he caused like bruises on my back and scrapes on my back. And then from there, he picked me up from my shirt and threw me onto my stomach, onto the floor. And at that point, I was anywhere from, I think, 26 to 28 weeks pregnant. Me and my husband, we met in, I believe it was 2017. I danced for my university and he played football for the university. I started working at a local spin studio. From there, my employer, my boss, had me reach out to him so we could do a university football ride at the studio. So I kind of organized it through him. After the class, he is very likable. So my boss ended up hiring him as well. And so for the next year to 2 years, we were co-workers. He tried often to take me out on dates and I always said no. So fast forward to 2021, I had my first son and at some point he asked me on a date again and I ended up saying yes. From there, we immediately 9 days after our first date, we made it official. We started dating and we really moved extremely fast. He gave attention like I had never really had before. So I didn't quite understand at the time that I was being love bombed. My frame of mind at that point was, wow, he's so attentive. He was getting gifts and showed me love, and he worked really long hours. And even if he got off at like 9 or 10, he would drive across town to come see me, even if it was just for 5 minutes. And so I just really felt seen by him. Within the first year of dating, we got engaged, I moved in, and we ended up pregnant for our first child together. And so after our son was born in February of 2023, and we ended up ending our engagement in 2 months postpartum. Looking back, I would definitely have a different reason as to why he ended it and why I had my reasons for ending it, but it was kind of like a mutual agreement. I think it was around Christmas time that we ended up getting back together. And from there, again, and we really picked off where we left up. We decided to move forward with getting married at that point. And we also had found out we were pregnant for another child together, our second child together. In the middle of that, we decided to go elope in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So after we eloped and we got back, we had our 19-week anatomy scan for our daughter. And that's when we learned she had a terminal diagnosis. At the time, we didn't know it was terminal, but we knew that there was something majorly wrong. So it turns out she had Dandy Walker malformation, as well as a genetic disorder of chromosome 7. The Lord's word popped right back into my mind, and I knew that we were going to lose her. Everything became extremely emotional for me. I think I immediately started grieving our child as I knew that she wasn't going to make it. It was almost kind of like he just stopped talking about it, which led me to be more vocal and try to understand what he was feeling and have him understand what I was feeling. One of those arguments, he became enraged. And with this conversation is the first time that I really was aware of abuse. From that conversation, just because I wouldn't stop talking about our daughter and her death, he grabbed me by the throat and he pushed me up into our bedroom window and he strangled me. From there, he shook me by the throat, threw me over the back of our bed, like the footboard, and he caused like bruises on my back and scrapes on my back. And then from there, he picked me up from my shirt and threw me onto my stomach, onto the floor. And at that point, I was anywhere from, I think, 26 to 28 weeks pregnant. Obviously, I panicked. The first person I called was his mom because I was kind of confused of why he was so angry. And I felt like she would have been the best person to maybe speak to him at that moment. And so I called her and I was hysterical and I was saying, he's lost it, he's insane, he just strangled me. She ended up wanting to call him and I called my mom and my mom came over. Thankfully, she had me take pictures of all of my bruises and marks and I went to the emergency room for early labor. From there, I had never really been in a situation like that. And so I didn't really feel comfortable with going in there and saying that my husband was the one that did it. I didn't know if it was going to I didn't know if that would make him more angry. I didn't know if he was going to go to jail. I just didn't know what happened in those situations. So I did report domestic abuse, but I just said by someone, I didn't say who. And so I was the one that apologized to him. 3 days later, again, we had I wouldn't say a full-on argument, just a little disagreement. He got in my face and, kind of pushed my head backwards, causing my lip to bruise. I'm not sure why, but I ended up taking a picture and sending it to him, and which was weird because we were in the same household. And so I don't really know what made me do that, but I sent a picture and I'm glad I did. And I said, I just felt my lip tingling and it's bruised. And he said, I just did that. And he asked me if I just did that. And I felt, when he asked me that, I don't know if it's a form of in denial or if I was scared or if I felt bad for him. I'm really not sure. But I said, no, I think it was just pregnancy. You know, weird things go on in pregnancy. And he was like, I don't think pregnancy does that, does it? Again, I didn't realize I was in denial. I'm not sure what my frame of mind was at that time, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings by telling him that he did in fact do that. That was in August of 2024. She was born in October of 2024. She was born October 8th, and she did pass after 3 days. She passed due to her genetic disorder. I think in the moment of, you know, going into labor, the doctors not being able to tell you if she was going to be born alive, or like born breathing or not, or if it was going to be minutes, days, months, we just had no clue. She did end up passing on the 3rd day, and it happened to be a time where my husband wasn't at the hospital. He had left to go get coffee with someone, and so I really got those last moments, you know, with her by myself. And selfishly, I think that's exactly what I needed. He would just always tell me, like, I need to overcome it. Like, there's nothing we can do. She died. Like, I need to overcome it. When I told him I was pregnant, he was angry, extremely angry, and he immediately started pushing for an abortion. I was at a place where, you know, my husband was telling me, you know, he hated me, that I was the worst decision he's ever made, that he wanted me to have an abortion. I was still grieving our daughter. Again, I got pregnant 2 months postpartum. My emotions are everywhere, and I'm just not really getting any support from him. And when I would try to speak, he would, now I see it as, silence me. When I tried to communicate that, it would always turn into, get your stuff, get out of my house, you need to leave. And I found myself very often like begging to stay. I would find myself saying like I wouldn't talk, or I wouldn't spend money, or, you know, like I'll keep everything to myself, just begging to be able to stay in our home. And I shouldn't have had to do that, but I felt it was necessary. I felt it was better if I was no longer here. And so I went into our bedroom closet and I was going to take my life. My husband did come home from work, and he found me, you know, with bottles of pills, and I was writing a note. When he came in, he then just took the note from me, laughed in my face, and left. You know, at the time, obviously that hurt my feelings. I'm obviously not in a good emotional place or mental place, and I didn't know what to think of that. Although he laughed in my face, he did end up calling my dad. My dad, you know, was exactly what I needed in that moment. From there, he ended up keeping my side note, and he would use it against me often, saying like, you know, I'll show people these things, or I'm going to use this note to take the children, or just, I don't know, just evil things I would consider evil. Again, from there, it just like the hatred got more and more and more towards me, and it got more loud, I guess. My 2-year-old was playing in my husband's golf bag, and he ended up finding like some condoms and things, and that was strange. And, you know, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, what are these? And, you know, he gave me an elaborate story. And I felt like the story was genuine, and I trusted it. Over the next couple weeks, it just continued, you know, not to really sit right with me. And when I would bring it up to him, of course, it always was, you know, again, you're insane. You're looking for a reason. If you're going to keep bringing it up, I should have cheated. Like, I'm not this monster you're making me out to be. And like, he really, what I would say, gaslit me into believing that I was insane and I was the problem. From there, he pushed me into our newborn's bassinet. After that, I stood up and I was like, you can't keep silencing me. Like, you have to allow me to speak. And from there, he took my arm, twisted it behind my back, shoved me into our bed face down. And that was the first time that I didn't take pictures of the bruising. And I think it was just because I was at the point that I think something in me was shifting. Like, every time I would speak, it would turn physical. And I think deep down I was starting to recognize that. And so I don't know I didn't take a picture that time, but I did end up telling some family members about the bruising. But of course I lied and I didn't say it was him, but I guess deep down I wanted them aware that I had some bruising. So that was in September. And then from September to November, again, I just kind of went back into, if I stay quiet, everything's okay. Fast forward through that argument, he ended up ripping me out of my car and throwing me onto the ground, where he broke my pinky. And I think in this argument is when truly everything in me just said, like, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. You're gonna hear me, or I don't care. Like, I do not need to be with you if I cannot be heard. I was just at a breaking point. That was my breaking point. I never got the apology I was asking for. He, never sat and listened to me. It was just an argument, broke my finger, and then left. We didn't speak for a week. And then after a week, he asked to speak. We had a conversation, and from there, I had to drag it out of him, but he ended up admitting that he did cheat, and that the condoms that were found, he admitted that he gaslit me for all of these months. And I don't know why. that the abuse wasn't enough, but something about the cheating, I knew that like I deserved more. So the very next day, I packed up our entire house, everything, that I could think of, and I left and I never went back. About a month later, we went to trial, and on the first day of trial, he got to speak, and then when it was time for me to get up on the stand, he really, again, I guess that was his last chance of silencing me, and he made me an offer of some things that were great, but I knew previously to that, the Lord had spoke to me and told me not to compromise with him, and I didn't really understand why. I just knew not to compromise, and so I didn't accept that deal with him, and we went through this. Really took around almost 3 months. It was during the holidays, so there's just a lot going on. But fast forward through the end of trial, lots of things had came forward. He admitted to cheating. He was committing fraud and using me to do part of that through his job. It had came forward that a family member of mine, but also his through marriage, he had used his career to like steal money from, and just so my like innocent and reality really was just like torn apart. The judge did grant me my protection order, but not only that, he also, all of the thousands and thousands that we racked up in doing this trial, the judge ordered him to have to pay that. What happened, God's will was done. But it also was an extremely emotional day for me. What I felt like was a victory of, winning my protection order was also a huge loss, because I don't think you ever like imagine yourself having to press those charges or get a protection order on someone that like you loved and you trusted. I guess that's kind of where I'm at now. Just because you're likable on the outside, people don't realize what goes on behind closed doors. So that just had me extremely nervous. But coming online and speaking and just being able to tell my story and be honest really has it's taught me so many things, but it's giving me my voice back. It's giving me confidence that I didn't even know that I had. It's also very humbling, I would say, because you're going online and you're saying all of these things that happen to you, but at the same time you don't want people just to view you as like that broken girl or that broken wife. I want people to see it, not that I'm broken, that I was broken, but now that I'm a lot stronger and that I'm able to come on here because of those things, and it's given me a testimony. A broken story is not where my life ends, and it's just like beginning. Overall, I would say it's just given me a lot of confidence and even my personality back. I've posted videos from, I've kind of posted every video, the sad ones, the courage ones, and then also I also use my personality and I make funny videos as well. And I think that's really just helped me express